Can you guys see me there? Hi guys, can you see me there? Can you hear me there? How to jump through? No apologies needed. I understand. Who's that from? Brits? No. Can you hear me? Out there, can I ask? Can anyone hear me, or am I has my sound not working? The Scarlet Pimpernel is here. Brits, yes. I love it. Yes. So yes, good. You can all. I can take it. That's a yes. Good. You can all hear me. Yes to both. Okay. Okay. Well, look, we've got a few people jumping on board there. I've got 8% of power left, and so my computer's going to go off in 2 shakes anyway. But it's just really just a very quick. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience problems. Okay, so apologies about that. Apparently, I have got a good connection, but I've just dropped down to 7%. I forgot the charger, so I can't plug in or anything else like that. So it's a very quick thing to say that I'm going to do this bit. I'm going to go through the timeline with Steve Olsen and Bobby Smith, from the Relentless Maverick tomorrow at 7 p.m. That's GMT my time. It's 9:43 now, GMT. So just so you can compare that with if you're hearing this and you're trying to work out what times it's going to be for you, depending on where you are in the world. 7 p.m. GMT tomorrow, running till about 9. Now elections, the voting I think will stop at 9 o'clock in the evening, 9 o'clock GMT. So when our show kind of finishes, so voting will be finishing as well. And it's a big shift. You think I've put since 2006, 2007 when I started writing Laughing Gas into this whole thing, seeing this whole thing building up to this realization, putting it into Laughing Gas and building up to this realization that this is all about Europe, and if we leave Europe, and we're not really going to leave Europe, it's just a gun under the table to Europe. The Queen's having meetings at the moment, kind of NATO meetings and that sort of stuff. So we know where NATO is really being created from. It's the British. It's the Queen. It's the royal powers that are the centre of all of this in Britain, and that's what all this free trade deal goes back to. And if Britain votes for this, Boris might win. He really might win. I've been speaking to a few people here and there. No one really knows. The demographics of it are completely impossible to say, but the most likelihood is that Boris is going to win. And it has terrifying implications because it's the gun under the table to the rest of Europe. It's basically you either sign a free trade deal or the $700 trillion that's flooding into Europe via the City of London. They won't get the access to their kind of really low credit ratings, their AA, AAA credit ratings anymore. They'll have to go via the WTO to access the British banking centres, and that means that their financial leverage just disappears overnight, unless of course China jump in or Russia jump in or something new comes in or something challenges the British hegemony that has been driving this since the war. And that's what this is really all about. This is why I foresaw the whole Brexit thing in advance. This is why I wrote a book in advance of it and saying, don't leave Europe. And people saying, oh, we're not going to leave Europe. What are you talking about? And this whole process, it's a big thing. And Boris might win. And if he wins, it's going to make the whole thing a lot more challenging. It's going to affect so much. Hello from Washington State, United States. Thank you. Hello from Portland, Oregon. Hi there. Carla Skywatcher may have just caught the twin tail. I think I've seen that shot from Cumbria, Portugal. No, it's quite a. It's been out for. If it's the same one I'm thinking of, it's been out for a good. It's been out for about a week, 10 days. That shot. Boris Weir, hi brother. I saw Elemental. What's her name? Elemental. Elemental or something. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but I think it's the lovely lady who turned up to my hustings the other day. Not the hustings, the show I did, or the presentation that went completely wrong. The projector failed, my Facebook thing failed, and Facebook, shut down my ability to privatise, to what do you call it, make my event public. They've been doing that to me ever since I ran for Mayor of Bristol, But that lovely lady turned up. I won't mention her name because she uses a different name. She uses Elemental, whatever. But thank you so much. I didn't give her. She bought some batteries for my my microphone. So and I didn't give her any money back. But I just wanted to say to you, is it Elemental? It's something like that. I'll see it coming up. But if it is, if I've got that right, thank you so much for that. Thank you. It's the little tiny gestures that mean so much. If you do ceremonies in South America, often you hear these kind of lines like "Pone la pilas," put in the battery. And in terms of giving what you want to receive, that's a good message. That's a good shamanic message coming into you that batteries are about to be put in your system. You're going to get powered up through this, and that's what this is all about. Giving what you want to receive. So let's see. Because I've got down to 9%, so like I say, I'm going pretty shortly. But like I said, we're going to go through the timeline with Bobby and with Steve tomorrow. You'll get a chance to chuck all your answers in. We're getting really a lot of criticism and flack from various different people, so we can imagine we're going to get a lot of criticism coming in. And so everyone coming in and throwing their opinions in, it's all about you guys and what your opinions are and where this is all going. Half from Hawaii, Tom Benson. Portland, Oregon also. Hi from Sydney, Australia. Hi there. This was this morning. Are we talking about am I getting a bit confused there? We're talking about Carla Skywatcher's shot from this morning. That's Gregory, who I'm talking to there. Gregory Olympus, whatever. BA Spectrum. I'm in Ecuador, and Volcano. Oh, Sangai went off 2 days ago, and the ash is reaching how do you pronounce that? Cuenca? Am I pronouncing that? Cuenca, I'm probably saying that. I recognise that name, and I know, I'm pretty much sure I'm saying that wrong. Anyway, it sounds like a big volcano has just gone in South America. Well, they're very normal to go off around there. We are expecting them all to go off. We're expecting a massive run of volcanoes to really pick up on Friday the 13th, the day after the full moon. Hello from California, dear Watson. The air quality here in the Andes Mountains is terrible. I can imagine if you've got volcanoes going off and what have you. How long, Dave? Well, it begins on the Friday the 13th, basically, not for any auspicious reason. It's just the day after the full moon. I mean, I am of the mind that they set all these calendars up, these dates on the calendars a long time ago. But and then we goes for the big flybys around about the 25th of January. It's cold in South California. Is it? That's quite. Now that makes a lot of sense, because you've got to understand that this is getting very close to us, and it's pulling the southern aspect of our globe towards it, which is plunging Australia into the heat, and it's plunging all of the north into the cold. You can imagine after Friday the 13th, a lot of volcanoes are going to go off. It's going to turn an enormous amount of moisture from the Pacific Ocean into the atmosphere. So once that goes up into the atmosphere, that's going to head up into the northern atmosphere and come out as massive snow. So every time we're going to get a full moon or a new moon, directly after, you're going to get this big sequence like we always see, where you get the storm, you you get the volcanoes, and the volcanoes create the moisture, and then you get the big storms in the Pacific directly, and then they come up through the Atlantic about 5 days to a week later, because it takes a bit longer for the heat, the moisture to come up through the Atlantic, and swing round via the kind of like via the Gulf up to effectively up through the coming up through the Atlantic to America, coming up to the East Coast rather than the West Coast. But obviously, as it comes up through there, it creates a storm which takes a longer route round. So the big storms, first of all, in the Pacific, and then on the east for America, it'd be the East Coast of America. But the way it's going at the moment, we've just got big storms coming in everywhere. But you can see the progress. You get the volcanoes, and that creates the moisture, and then you get the cycle of storms coming, and that's how this works. And let the crow, hello. Hey to, oh, I missed it. You jumped forward a load then. Sorry about that. We've got a load of people suddenly jumping on. A lot of Nikes were spotted around. A lot of. Does that say Klingons? A lot of Klingons were spotted around Uranus. That's a little bit of kind of like astronomical terminology, I think. Hi from Boise, Idaho. Idaho, cold, but started off with chemtrails. Hello, sweetheart, Annette the crow. Oh. Australia is doomed. I think it's all. I don't know if it's all going to be that bad. We have to understand a big process of this is. I feel as if there's a much bigger process going on in this, and it's not this kind of like it's the end of the world sort of thing. I think it's a much more spiritual process that is going on through this. It is going to shake it up, because if Britain is used to kind of drag all these countries into a massive free trade deal where they sacrifice and surrender so much that dooms this planet, there's just only one solution to that, one easy solution to that, which is take out the banking centres. And that's how I think the gods. I was told that if Britain leaves Europe, show me a picture of show me a vision of the Titanic, with a massive Great Britain plate on the front of it, and it said, if Britain comes to a juncture and it stays in Europe and weathers a storm, or it cuts its anchors and heads west, but if it heads west, its fate is sealed. And we can see what we're trying to do. We're being NATO's we've got the kind of like the puppet hand of NATO up our backsides, basically, our British backsides, driving all of this. And it's not what the people want, but it's all just propaganda. All the media is run. The front cover of the Sun newspaper is just vote Tory and all that sort of stuff. And it's just completely, the Brexit was created by the Sun newspaper. It is the Sun newspaper. And that's where they're the ones who've driven it. The kind of like this whole thing. It's their baby from the very onset. Hello from Sedonia, Arizona. Oh, hi there, Mark. Alsop, is that 4 year till pole flip? Nibiru showing its colours. Yeah, it's so sure. I think it's all happening now. I don't think there really will be a pole flip. I think a pole flip, as it were. But I think it will just be a slight change in its axis. Actually, I don't think it's going to flip right over or anything too major. Well, I've just got my battery sign coming up there. But just to recap on that, just for anyone who just jumped in, I didn't quite hear. So I'm doing a big live stream discussion with the WSO tomorrow, and Bobby from Relentless Maverick is going to be there. Obviously Steve's going to be there, kind of like hosting the whole thing. We're going to go through the whole timeline. We're going to look at the whole Jupiter thing. We're going to look at a bigger picture of how we got to this stage, because it's going to be, as far as I can see, this thing really begins on the 13th. I mean, it's begun already, and we've been in it for years and years, realistically. We've been in it since 2010. And we've been in it for a long time. And that process, it's not over now, but it's completely on its way out after this. We are completely on our way away from the Jupiter system and away from the Planet X system, heading away from it. Then this will be our closest part to this one of the twin tail objects that orbits not Planet X, or that orbits Jupiter, one of Jupiter's moons. And so we're doing the show tomorrow. It's 7 till 9, as far as I know. It's going to be live streamed. That's the 12th, and that's going to be the full moon. And the day after, like I say, will be the 13th, Friday the 13th. And because we saw the big earthquakes happen just before the new moon in late November, we can see, because of that alignment, we can see that it's most likely for the shock to occur, for us to get the earthquakes and volcanoes that we're going to get. And they're not going to be massive, but they're going to be a sharp increase to what we saw, I would imagine, on just previous, the 6.1 and the 6.4 we just saw in Europe. There you go, my computer's just gone down to 1%, so we're just dying off now. So in a second it's going to shut down. So please join me tomorrow, and join Steve, Bobby and myself tomorrow. And we'll go through the whole thing, and we'll all throw our opinions in. It's going to be a hotbed of discussions, and you're going to hopefully get your chance to put your opinions forward. And many comments have come up here very quickly, so I'll read through these once this goes up. I'll read through all these comments that I missed. But thanks again for being with me now. Last day for vote. It's voting day tomorrow, and like I say, everything is. This doesn't decide which way it goes. It just decides the level of protection that we are afforded by the gods through this process. If we choose, we're choosing gods here. That's what we're really choosing. And more specifically, individually, we're choosing which souls we wished to have incarnating within us through this process. And those souls that enter and are present in this process will be present for this entire next cycle. So it's a big thing. And it's a bigger process that's going on here, much bigger process, and we're gonna explore all of that. We're gonna have a big day tomorrow, and we're gonna be at the end of this election process, and it's gonna affect us all around the globe. How this vote goes tomorrow, it's gonna affect us all around the globe, but it's gonna affect Britain most of all. It's going to have a massively profound effect on Britain. No matter which way you slice this, it's going to have a big effect on Britain. It's going to have a big effect on much of the globe. But most importantly, it's going to have a big effect on us psychically. So we'll be looking at all of that and discussing all of that. And thanks for 3 days of darkness coming in January. Very likely. Let's be honest, it's very, very likely that this is going to be the closest point in the cycle. I mean, we could argue to say that, well, let's face it, we saw January, February 2010, 2011, the 8.8 in Chile, and then the kind of like 9.6, originally listed 9.6 in 2011, of course, Fukushima. We've seen January. We've seen February, we've seen March, and then we've gone all the way around the globe. All the different positions as it's systematically gone through. And obviously when we went around to March, well, we saw it in March as well. Do you remember the big asteroid that came in over Russia? So in 2013, and we've seen all of these sightings and had these kind of seismic kind of activity as we've moved through. But after we've pretty much gone from January, February, March, April, May, June, there was obviously the Brexit vote. It just started coming back in again, because between then it was pretty much going into the night sky. Jupiter was going into the night sky where we normally knew it. But it was coming in closer to where we were seeing it in 2018, and this is why we know we're not in this heliocentric model. This is what we're going to explore. But we saw that, by the time we got to August, September, October, remember August 2017, and then sort of like 2018, the big tsunami in September, and then 2018, the big, 2019, we saw the gravitational anomaly around about the 29th of October. So we've seen the kind of central positioning point of Jupiter itself causing seismic activity. We've seen all the activity on both sides as that's coming in, and we've seen that repeatedly now for years, for coming on since 2011. We've had too many perfect patterns, too much seismology and volcanic evidence to ignore it. And so we're going to go right through it. We're going to look at it all. It's going to be a big one. We're going to take you all through it, all your comments. Everyone's going to go on to this and feed into this. And let's bring it all together. There's going to be a lot of criticism coming in tomorrow. A lot of people shooting us down. And you know my timeline. And you know bits I'm going to bring up. Think about what some of the things you're going to say, so you're ready with some of your comments at that time to feed in. And and we'll do the best we can. But, it's been a mission, hasn't it? It's been 13 years for me. It's been 12 years, really. It's been, 12, 13 years. 13 years, effectively, since I started writing Laughing Gas to this point here, telling this whole story about don't leave Europe and all the rest of it, and this whole journey. And it's been a 13-year thing. And when I started it 13 years ago, I would have never believed it is this story that we're living in now. Not in a million years. What's up, Dave? Just reading some of your comments here. And I married a sponge. Hi, Dave and Steve. Hi, everybody. Oh. Try. What's that? Dave, are you on any other platforms? Just in case YouTube try booing you off. They might try and boo us off. The truth is that subtly over a long period of time, my model has been, even though it's upgraded and changed astronomically, it's always been built on the same 200-day pattern, which kind of like has led us to this, where 2 cycles of 200 minus the 4 days, which brings us to 396 days, which is another way of just seeing Jupiter. And I think people know it now. I think people have just gone on and on and on. I feel like an old record has just been